Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the Marketing Matters podcast. Here we talk about marketing trends, digital evolution in the digital space, as well as any relevant news in the tech space. My name is Steven Natema, and I have my lovely host.
Victoria.
Now, I know, of course, for our avid followers, it's been quite a minute, and we apologize for letting you down. But this year we want to do things differently. So it's 2025 for those who, if you watch this in 2030, we are recording this in 2025 January, and I think um, in the period that we were off, we were doing some reflections and things about how we can, just give you better content and add value to your lives, whether you are just watching for entertainment or you're trying to upskill or you're trying to just understand how, to make it work, marketing work for your business. So I would like to start with Vicky. What have you been thinking about 2025 with regards to this podcast?
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, so for
Our
me,
our Pasi said we say Happy New Year until March.
yeah, because you might meet someone whom you have not met since the beginning of the year, so it will still be a Happy New Year. Yeah,
Hmm.
so for me, two things. One is I know we got busy last year, then we we stopped doing the recordings. So for me this year, even we are saying it loudly such that it's we make it accountability to even the audience.
Yes.
Consistency is going to be key. Every week, I expect to get the Marketing Matters podcast active. You'll be able to get something that you learn or something that you can be able to implement in your business or in your skills if you're a marketer. Then the second thing, we'll always ensure we have done this, but we are also going to ensure that we keep you up to speed because technology is changing on a daily basis and things are moving at a very fast speed. And you need someone or people who can be able to just help you understand these things in the simplest way possible. At the same time, things that are beneficial to you because you can't be able to grasp everything that is in the technology space. So it will keep you up to speed with things that are relevant to your business or to you as a marketer.
Okay. So for me, I think, of course, definitely the consistency we really have to show up for you guys, and I personally want to commit that even when Vicky is not ready for the podcast, we shall try to make sure every week we have one video on the platform, whether it's YouTube or Spotify. So that's on the consistency, which you've already talked about. Another thing that I personally want to do in this 2025 is to give you guys better quality content in terms of well researched content, so that you can, when you come to this podcast, you not only get the surface level information about marketing or anything in the tech space. We want to be doing deep dives so that you get additional value, and you always use this as your go-to platform for, when you're trying to understand what is happening in the tech or marketing space. Then the other thing is, I want to I am purposing this podcast to be a very light podcast, not a serious podcast with scripts and serious conversations, but in a light manner, so that we are also relatable to our wider audience. So those are, for me, the two main things: to be light in this conversation, and so maybe you might, for some people it might work, and for some it might not work for you, but bear with us, and then do give you quality output in terms of the research we do, in terms of the advice we give, and also in terms of the just even the production quality going into 2025. And yes, one podcast per week. If we don't do that, please always
Minimum.
hold us into account.
Yeah,
Mm.
minimum, not just one podcast,
Yes,
minimum of
minimum
one.
one podcast.
Yeah.
Yes, up to the end of. We shall do a review in June to see how far, how good, how well we are performing, and also maybe have a session with you guys and see what you would like us to improve, and then of course another one in December to see whether we actually lived up to what we promised in this first podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's now that that's done. Let's now get into the stuff land. Like we said, we're going to this year is a year where we tell you the most relevant content, and in a very consumable manner. So anybody who has been on social media in the last week, or in the last 1 or 2 weeks of January, knows that there is a looming ban on TikTok. And it's a looming ban, but not for the world, but it's a looming it's TikTok is supposed to be banned on 19th of January in the US.
Yeah.
And it's a very important occurrence, because US is the biggest market for TikTok, but also US sets the pace for a lot of things, and it can create a ripple effect that if a ban actually occurs on 19th of January, highly likely that other countries might end up also enforcing a ban, and it might have unintended consequences, such that it might now not only affect TikTok, but it can then end up affecting all other social media platforms. So I would like, first of all, Vicky, for you to maybe share your input, and then I can, or should I start by giving the audience a background of how we reached here, before then we can enter into that discussion. I don't know how you want us to proceed.
I think you can give a background and then I
Mm.
will explain more.
Yeah. So this conversation about a ban on TikTok, for most people, they think it started last year, but it actually started in the Trump administration. In the first term of Trump, he was very anti-China, and he would take any opportunity to bash China. So in the first administration, Trump actually said any Chinese company operating in America was going to be banned if they don't conform to, there were some trade agreements and arrangements. And he actually highlighted that TikTok was going to be one of those companies that had been banned. But then he was fought by his own Congress and Senate, and that never materialized. And then it died down. And then not last year, in 2023, then it resurfaced with Congress. And the conversation then was about, um, there was some information shared by their intelligence agencies that they had found that TikTok had been using the platform to spy on key government people, as well as even the American public. And when you talk about national security threats, everybody gets alert. And in fact, now a new bill was created, which was meant to ban companies that are not American owned from operating in America. So technically, it's not really a TikTok ban. It is a ban on American tech companies operating out of America, or that don't have American ownership from operating in America. So it passed actually unanimously in Congress, and it also passed in Senate. And the deadline was given then for especially TikTok, because TikTok was the one found to be the culprit, to comply with those regulations by the 19th of January 2025. Now, over last year, TikTok, instead of complying, chose to fight that legislation, especially because it was like a TikTok ban. You know how a regulation is put to sort one specific problem. It was actually targeted at
Mm,
TikTok. So TikTok
mm,
went on a PR campaign telling, not customers, creators, to appeal to the government to not ban. There was a whole story about creators saying, don't ban TikTok, it's giving me money, TikTok is entertaining me, TikTok has maybe allowed me to do one or two things. And then they went to the courts, and they went to the Supreme Court, to the Court of Appeal, and then they went. Is it the Supreme Court? It ended up in the Supreme Court, which gave the ruling on. If I'm not wrong, it was around 17th or 18th thereabout, which upheld the ban. Which now means, come 19th of January, TikTok is supposed to be, quote unquote, not available to the US consumers. Now, I think maybe we can get into the details now with you, Vicky. But the,
yeah.
the point is now, it is, as we stand, or at the time of this recording, TikTok is technically supposed to be banned
Yeah.
in the US from 19th. Now, there's also that bit about what does a ban actually mean on a platform. It has never been done actually in at least in the American history. so there's a whole also a lot of arguments or a lot of speculation about how will this ban take into effect. Will the Americans wake up tomorrow on not tomorrow, I think it's, I can't remember. Yeah, I think it
It's
should be on
tomorrow.
19th,
It's tomorrow. It's
because we are
tomorrow on
recording,
Sunday.
yes, 19th is tomorrow. Will they wake up tomorrow and find their apps, the TikTok app has disappeared on their phone? Or um will what will happen be that the app is there, but it is quote unquote non-functional? Because what makes TikTok or any other app useful is because of the regular updates they make, the regular tweaks they make to the recommendations. So some tech specialists are arguing that what will happen likely is the app, actually, the funny thing about, again, that how that regulation is worded, TikTok is not illegal, but the companies that are hosting can't host it in America. So
Yeah.
it actually, TikTok is illegal for those companies to host them, but it's not illegal for an American to have it. So you can
Yeah.
have it on your phone, and that's why some people are arguing for the latter, that it will be possible. You will have the app, but because Google and Apple, which are the biggest distributions through their phones, Google is for people who Android. Google owns Android, and then Apple through the App Store. Because they are the biggest distribution, what will happen is they will stop supporting the app. So
But
you won't do updates, you won't do anything. So with time, the app will just die a natural death. But for the people who are downloading TikTok now on 19th, it will now not be available totally.
yeah,
So for the
but
people who have it,
again,
it will be there. And yeah.
you see, when they say it's not illegal to have it as an American, but it's illegal for the companies like
Mm,
Apple and Google. They have actually
yes.
mentioned Apple and Google to host. Think about it. The Play Store is for Google.
Yes.
When you're having an Android phone, you'll have to use the Play Store to download the TikTok. If you have Apple phone, the same applies. If you're using even accessing TikTok on your laptop, probably you're using Chrome or you're
Mm.
using Google, unless you want to go to the Microsoft and the likes. But
And I don't
the,
even think it's supported there.
yeah, so it is just like it's
It's a
another way to
ban.
say that yeah, it's a ban. So
Mm,
but having said that, I know that there is also the challenge between the old administration and the incoming administration, the Biden and the Trump, because now I think Trump is supposed to be in office by Monday, and
yes, yes.
therefore there was a the Biden had said, I've handed
Yes.
over to Trump to handle the issue, knowing very well that Trump had rejected it when he was in power. And
Yeah.
so Trump also mentioned, I think this time he's a bit lenient because he had mentioned that
Yes. Trump is flopping.
he's going to respond. He never gave an exact answer. He just said he's going to respond. And
Mm,
the owner of TikTok, the CEO, had mentioned that we are still going to ban. We are still going to. They call
comply.
it a dark moment. We are still going to have the dark mode from Sunday because we have not been given an assurity of how we are going to work. And the Americans are like, you have to give us ownership for you to
Yes.
be in our, to work with our people or
Right in our,
be in our
yeah.
country. Yet them, it's like it's something that if they are to sit down and agree and compromise on both sides, I think they'll have to come to an agreement. It's just that
Mm,
Trump has said, wait for me to get in office. And then after I
mm.
get in office, then we can agree on
Like,
negotiate on certain things. And with them, they feel, we have to agree because this Sunday you knew that it was coming this Sunday. So
yeah.
it's a very tight a conversation that we wait. We are only counting hours actually to see what will
Yes.
happen, and we will know by next week when Trump enters office. Of course, he has to again settle in before, but I don't think it's going to be. From my own personal opinion, I don't think it's going to be banned because you know, anytime you have a company that has already been integrated on people's lives, it becomes so difficult for you to, especially if you are in the political office, it becomes very
Mm,
difficult for you to just decide to do what you want because you think this is the right thing to do. I think they'll have to come to a compromise on both sides. Maybe it requires a lot of time. That's why even Trump is. Not able to give a direct decision because the court is not shifting its decision, and therefore they
Mm.
have to really sit down and agree. So I think because of the much discussion that needs to happen for them to come to an agreement, that's why Trump needed more time. But I don't think it's going to be banned. But we wait to see. And even if it's going to be banned, it's going to take like a few days or months or weeks, and then it goes back because it's really helping even the. In fact, Americans are making more money in it compared to other countries.
But Americans are making more money in every platform compared to other
Yes,
countries.
but anywhere where you're making money, you not want to lose. And again, this big, unless again, like for TikTok, it has really supported the small content creators compared to the big content creators. And again, it's a competition to the big companies. So that's
Yeah.
why the battle is real. So we just wait to see.
Yeah, that's true, and definitely when the decision is made, we shall update you, even if it's on a short video on
Yeah,
actually what has happened and what it means. But I guess somebody is probably wondering, why is TikTok being banned in
yeah.
in the US now. There are three main reasons that are justifying or have made the American government to go with this position. And the first one, like you hinted towards earlier, was that there is that issue about data. What's the word? It's a government is arguing that TikTok is a national security threat to them. Why?
Mm,
Because everybody knows social media platforms harvest a lot of data. Sometimes they claim to not harvest, but they do. They harvest a lot of data. They listen to even conversations that you have. And TikTok, people used to think Facebook or Meta was the biggest spy, but TikTok was found to be listening to everything that people say, even when the app is off. And it also has ways through the permissions given to even interact with your different other platforms, so that you can even make the recommendations better. Now, for the why it's a national security threat is because the argument is that now even American lawmakers, American spy agents, American law enforcement agencies, a lot of sensitive government people are also on TikTok. And even if they're not on TikTok, they have the app on their phone. Maybe if they don't have the app, their wife has their app, or their husband has their app, their child has their app. Now when they're in a conversation discussing about something, or a partner that they're meeting with might have the app. Now they might be discussing about national security or national secret information, and TikTok might be listening. And why is this important? Why does it matter that TikTok is listening? It's because TikTok is technically a Singaporean company, but it is owned by a Chinese firm. Even the company is incorporated in Singapore, but the parent company is called ByteDance. So ByteDance is a Singaporean company, but its real owners are in China. Now, America and China have this serious war about about information and trade wars and whatnot. So the threat is that Chinese entities will use ByteDance or instruct ByteDance to give it data that can help it spy on American, especially targeted American enforcers. Another thing that they fear is, or that argument has been made, which I think has some merit, but I think it's mostly politicized, is that they are arguing TikTok is shaping American culture. And they are saying China is using TikTok to make Americans dumber. So there was even an argument in their Congress or Parliament saying, when you come and see TikTok in the US, the recommendations it gives you are just funny things, things that are useless. But the TikTok in China is giving guys educative content and whatnot. So there is also that bit that they're arguing. China will use TikTok to make America dumber, and of course they are in this war of AI. They are fighting against technology trade wars. So they are saying it's a bad thing for America. And then the last thing, which is now why I suspect it might still be banned, is because Trump is pro-business, and the Trump's advisors are arguing that China does not respect the law of reciprocity, which means if American companies are not allowed to operate in China, why should China be allowed to operate in America? You can't access X in China, you can't access Meta in China, you can't access LinkedIn in China, you can't access YouTube in China. So they are saying, if unless China is willing to allow American companies into the US, then we cannot allow Chinese companies into the sorry, unless China allows Chinese American companies into China, then Americans should not, or American lawmakers cannot allow Chinese companies into the US. And that's why the requirement is not to ban, is not that TikTok will be banned. They are saying if you divest and give it to American owners, then we shall allow the app to continue. But now
Okay.
TikTok is not going is has not complied with that regulation because China also does not want to let go of
Okay, I get what you're saying, Steve. Actually, especially on the last point, I get what you're saying. Your China has restricts on the different social media platforms, but now my argument here is, you see, if you already knew China is restricting on these platforms,
mm,
why did you allow it to come, and then now you want to to block it when it's already there? Americans are already using the TikTok platform. Why now? Why now? Is it now that you're realizing that it's not, our platforms are not being accepted in in the other country? Like,
yes,
it's
that's what they're saying. We
the
didn't know.
compromise. The
They came as a
compromise now.
Singaporean company.
No, they were supposed to restrict it from the word go, but now you can't
But
say
they
right
couldn't
now.
when the company was saying it's a Singaporean company. So they are
Oh,
saying we got now information from our intelligence agency, the NIS, National Security, whatever. That intelligence agency that showed that ByteDance is actually owned by a Chinese company, and government has access to ByteDance. So they are saying in the initial stages, this company presented itself as not affiliated to China, and now we realize, these guys are, and then of course learning that they are also having the permissions are are less restrictive than it is on
yeah.
other American companies. Mhm.
Yeah, it's just a compromise that they'll have to, every side of the coin, I think they'll have to compromise to agree.
Mm.
And
So
then
you
of
you are
course
betting you are betting that they won't ban, and I'm
it will
saying
not
they
be
will ban.
banned. It will not be banned. They'll just come with restrictions that they'll have to follow. Because America, you see, like when you look at scenarios like X being banned in EU,
Right.
you know that one is
So you-
different because those countries by default their restrictions are just too much, and then
mm,
EU is a bit different from America. America is like a big country, as in it's a continent. You can't just decide to ban when you have already integrated it in people's lives. It's going to be a bit tricky. Now, even
mm,
as I look at the first reason of when you say the threat, I'm just
mm,
thinking, if I'm to compare TikTok
mm,
with the information that I get on TikTok and AI. I mean, I feel AI is going to, it's more of a security threat compared to TikTok because the information that AI is being fed can
mm,
easily, it's like you can easily get information, and it's even going to be worse when the technology is continuing to advance. You can easily get information from AI compared to the TikTok platform that we are talking about. So I think if we are talking about a security threat, then we really need to look at the AI
mm.
as a tool compared to social media, TikTok as a platform.
Yeah, that is true, and AI is being fed with a lot of information. But AI companies are American owned. So they have
Yes,
no
but
problem with security threat. They are not worried that this company will share information with China. It is their own companies, and there are strict regulations about doing that. The problem here is Chinese ownership of this platform. Not even that the platform has data. They are just saying we don't trust China. In fact, it's actually interesting that you brought this up because even in the investigations, it was never found that China had tried to access data through ByteDance. But they are saying that just the fact that China has control over ByteDance, they might not ask today, but the one time might
in
come
future.
when they say, yes, you guys give us data, and America will not be able to. And in fact, they're saying now that time it will be very ingrained. Another reason why, which I forgot to share earlier, another reason why people are arguing that the ban might actually take effect on 19th, even if it will be reversed after Trump gets into power, is that the law says for every additional download of TikTok, Google and Apple will pay $5,000 per user. So currently, TikTok is rumored to have around 175 million users in America.
Yeah.
If we say that because of the whole uh, chaos that has been created, it has created additional interest in TikTok. So a company like Apple is thinking, do I really want to risk paying almost a billion shillings in fines for a company, first of all, that is Google, for a company that is a direct competitor from my other business like YouTube Shorts and our other plans on social media? Or do I want to argue that, oh, you know what, American agencies said I can't comply, and then another thing about the law is that even if they don't enforce it now, it is enforceable up to 5 years, which means even if another president comes and says that this thing was banned, it is possible that they can still be liable in that period about what they did when the ban was enforced. So there is a whole lot of it's actually a money issue for the companies, as well as
Yeah.
strategically thinking, how do we get rid of this company? I suspect, I don't know if I'm right, you can correct me. I think even was it Zuckerberg who offered to buy to buy the company, and they said no, 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 because ByteDance does not want to release ownership of
Yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We wait and see. We
Yeah.
have it's only within a matter of time.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
But yeah, we hope that this thing will be resolved. And in any case, for the biggest concern I have, even as we conclude on this matter, is the ripple effect that this might have. Kenya has already started talking about banning social media platforms that don't have a presence in the country. Like they want Facebook or Meta to have a physical presence or a representative office. They want X to have a physical office because governments also are being especially with this new wave of revolutions, governments are also very scared about how people are using social media, especially to topple government. So there is I think it's a bill that is about to go to parliament. I don't know if it will even go past the first reading, that they want to say for a social media company to operate in Kenya, then they ought to have a presence in Kenya. And that will not only apply to Kenya, especially even in the other countries, not only just Africa, globally. When people see that Americans can actually force companies to actually do what they because previously it was thought that you can't force a big tech company to do something like ban something on social media or set up a physical presence. But if America can do it, people will then argue, then why should we not also require companies to actually then be owned locally by have some local shareholding, if that is the
Yeah.
argument, or at least have a physical presence before they can operate. So my concern, especially as a marketer, is that this creates some form of uncertainty about the social media. Actually, Vicky, I don't know what angle are you looking. Would you look at, especially as a marketer, if this ban actually takes into effect? I know you are positive that it will just be a temporary ban and it will come back, but assuming this thing actually is implemented and Trump says, you know what, you guys have refused to China has refused to divest, no TikTok in America. What do you think is the impact to marketers both in America as well as the whole world, for especially TikTok and even just social media app in extension?
Okay, first of all, when you look at the statistics, in terms of businesses generating revenue, as much as there's a whole hullabaloo about TikTok, people are making so much money on TikTok.
Mm,
When you look at the real statistics, it's mentioned that companies are spending more money and are even making more money on Google Ads, then followed
mm,
by Facebook, then followed by I think Instagram, you, YouTube, YouTube and TikTok are almost the same level. So as much as even if they do the ban, the
mm,
impact will be there, but not so much because TikTok has also not been there for long. But we have always mentioned that anytime you're marketing on this platform, these platforms are supposed to help you reach a wider audience. But at the end of the day, you're supposed to be able to drive that traffic away from the social media platform. That is always something that will help you stay safe as a business. So
mm,
if your focus is always to grow on the social media platform and you remain there, you never know. Even if it's not banned, you as a person can even be banned from the social media platform with any mistake that you make. So it's always good that even whether you're a content creator or a business, anytime you want to generate revenue from it, which you should, Then you need to find ways of how you can generate that traffic, the conversation, the community. You build the community or you build your audience, but be able to lead them away from the social media platform, either through your website, to your website, or you have a contact list that it's just somewhere. Anytime these platforms behave the way they do, like now, when you're talking about the TikTok, which you have no control over, at least you know you have your customers somewhere, or you have your potential customers that you can still be able to follow up. So it should not be a very okay. It will be very painful for people who have grown their social media platforms to, let's say, a million, more than 500,000. But if you have built your business in a way that you always drive your leads away, then it should not affect you so much.
Yeah, that's actually very good, and actually it's worth noting that even as people claim that TikTok makes money, TikTok makes a lot of people famous, but especially in these low LSM countries like Kenya, a lot of people are not making money from TikTok. I
Yeah,
suspect even
yeah,
TikTok is not yet monetized in Kenya. So there's a whole lot of conversations about, people sometimes mistake fame for wealth or richness. So globally speaking, probably Americans are making, because there is also the TikTok shop and whatnot. So some influencers or some creators will see a significant impact or negatively so on their social media, on their revenues, because most of them have actually just grown, are actually, it's possible, especially in developed countries, to actually just be an influencer on one platform and rely on that for all your livelihood. So some people are going to be disrupted, but in future, in what is likely to happen, people, if it's actually implemented, my view is that people will just move.
yeah,
Where there's money to be made, people
yeah,
people just move.
yeah.
So
But
whether they'll move back to another platform or a new one will come, and maybe what we shall talk about in another video about what we think will happen in 2025, the social media trends. Whether that happens is people adapt, and
yeah,
like you said on that bit about website, I think it's also a good thing to mention that we also do websites, and part of why we were actually unavailable in the last quarter of last year, we are dealing with a lot of intensive projects on website development and helping different companies with digital presence or digital marketing strategies. So if you want to learn more about what we do on the website end as well as on the digital marketing, just go to www.ashagrouplimited.com and you shall see all other services we offer, as well as even the portfolio of companies that we have supported recently in their website development needs. Yeah, I think it's a good way to end that conversation about TikTok. Segue into now the other news that made the other item that made news in the last week, or last 2 weeks, which is the jobs report. There is usually an annual report provided, released by an organization called the World Economic Forum. It's usually followed most of the time by the people in the finance sector, but also now marketers or any person who is interested in trying to understand what the future jobs market will look like. It's also a good place to go to just understand where does your specific career fall in the grand scheme of things, or how experts are predicting. Of course, nobody knows about the future, and sometimes, or oftentimes, most of these predictions never actualize. But there are some predictions that it is better to know that there is a potential increase or a decline in your potential career that you want to take, or the career that you're in, so that you can adjust accordingly. So let me just share my screen to just give a short slide, a short screenshot of what I wanted us to mainly discuss about. Yeah. So this report is found if you just Google the WEF, that's the short for World Economic Forum. Just Google Future Jobs Report 2025. It ranks well. Again, something we do is SEO. We can help you rank as well as such news. But they're arguing that over 170 million jobs will be created in the next decade. But the thing is, as it creates 170 million jobs, 92 million jobs will be displaced. So it is not just creating jobs and adding to the job market, it is creating jobs and also displacing other people. And that's why I was saying any person who is interested or who is growing in their career, you want to know what potential risks you pose to your job, or whether there are opportunities in your job, so that you can strategically plan. But that is just a highlight. Another thing that I also wanted us to note was that they also rank usually the top growing jobs in the next 5 years and the top declining jobs in the next 5 years. And of course, we can't go into the actual details, but it was quite interesting that while some people like me had assumed education will be disrupted in the next decade, these guys are predicting that lecturers, teachers, and people in the learning institutions will see a jump in their requirements. Of course, the guys we already know who are like, we call them the people in the service industry, the truck drivers, the nurses, and healthcare nurses, people doing delivery jobs, people doing project managers. This is also another. I think we should have Vicky a podcast just to talk about project managers and how that the job has actually grown over the last just 3-5 years, because it also has its own it has also evolved in a quite interesting way. And project managers are not the traditional project managers people used to know. You can have a project manager for maybe a construction site, a project manager for a workplace. These project managers are tech project managers. So to just summarize, you can be a company like there is a tradition. Let's say Asha Group, which is a company that that of course this podcast is domiciled under Asha Group. But say Asha Group has projects and we have 10 customers, so there is a project manager handling the different customers. You might call them client relationship managers. But the project managers being referred here are tech project managers, people who help tech businesses or businesses transition into different tech projects. Like say you want to automate your processes, or you are a bank and you want to improve your processes, then you would hire a project manager. Most of these project manager roles will in future, or even now, require somebody with tech skills. So there is also something you need to work about. Overall, tech will be a big driver. But then another thing that I saw that is also for a marketer, not data graphic designers are also going to be on the decline. Now, whether this will actually materialize or whether it will evolve into something else is subject to debate. But if you are a person in the creative industry, you need to really try to see how well you can plug into this evolution. Especially if you're doing videos, if you're doing even guys like us who are doing social media management strategies, if you're doing creative design, if you are helping guys in the if you're helping guys through the social media or the client relationship management tools like Salesforce, HubSpot, Zoho, all of those, there is going to be a shift in how those careers evolve in the future, and largely driven by AI and automation. And so you might want to take a look at how that industry might work. Of course, we shall do in future podcasts and topics about what we see or what we think will be the future, especially for the people in our industry, the tech guys, um, or how you can transition into this what's the word into this space. But yeah, go into that site, read more about it. It was just a good FYI, leaving to the
Yeah,
promise of giving you relevant information that you can use.
yeah. Maybe just to talk mention two of those jobs that I've seen. The education. I think most people, there's a lot of change that is happening on every field. In every field, there is a lot of change. So I think education is because people want to upskill they want to upskill because of there is much change. Whether you're doing business, whether you're in your career, because of the changes in technology, and most companies are adapting to the technology. Then anyone who's in any environment, they would want to see how would I be able to utilize the technology to fit in the space that I'm in. So education would definitely grow. Yeah, and it's true even for the graphic designers and even us in the field, just as you've mentioned, exploring especially the AI changes and the growth will really help us, because you need graphic designers will decline, or their jobs will decline, but those who stay are the ones who will be competitive by utilizing the AI or integrating AI in their creativity.
Yeah, that's true. I think anybody who, whether you work in the tech industry or whether you work in what we'd call traditional industries like trades, which you're a plumber, you're a guard. In fact, if you notice on the presentation, even security guards are a threat.
Yeah.
So people had imagined or people had argued that, if you're working in the trades industry, trades means you do those manual jobs, like you are a truck driver, you are plumber, you are a guard, you are a construction worker. People argued or people had believed for the longest time that those jobs would be the last ones to be replaced. But
Mm,
with what is happening in the AI automation, it has also catapulted the innovation in the robotic space.
mm,
So what people used to do as what we would consider the high risk jobs, like a guard, you might be shot, or a shop might be vandalized, or a construction worker working in a skyscraper might fall and die and cause a whole lot of risk. Now with robots, they don't have to worry about that, and with
yeah.
robots they can even fast track or double the output, because the robot can work morning and evening. It will not need to be fed, it will not need to go on leave, it does not die, and if it falls, you can always replace it. So always look at, even if you're thinking or if somebody has told you your career cannot be replaced, please try to explore for yourself about
Yeah.
the potential of that career, especially because I don't think people have fully appreciated the potential that AI or the potential risks AI poses to every career, even CEOs. In fact, people who are founders are the ones who might say they are safe. If you are a founder of a company,
Yeah.
you cannot be replaced because it's yours. But you can replace everybody else. You can replace your digital marketer, you can replace your driver, your sales guy, and whatnot. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
So that is a good way to end this part of the podcast, and we are really thankful and we're really happy to be back. I had missed our conversations, and like we said, we shall endeavor to have at least not that we shall have one podcast, at least one podcast a week, and we shall always bring you information as and when it rises, and even give you additional insights to give you a better view or a better understanding of the different trending topics. But yeah, if you like us and if you want to share this content, please feel free to share it on your social media platforms, even whatsapp is actually a social media platform for those who don't know. And it's been good. See you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.